So if you're watching this, my name is Kez and I am one half of travel couple So Today We Found. My husband and I set off travelling in April 2018. We got married in November 2017 and we set off to Australia at the end of April following our wedding. And we stayed there for 15 months and then came back in July 2019. Then after that we went to Asia for 6 weeks in November and we moved back into our little flat in March this year, so March 2020. And the day after we moved back in, I found out that I was pregnant. So this is my first trimester pregnancy diary. I'm due in November 2020, so mid to late November. If the baby doesn't come on time, there is a chance that it could tip over into a December baby. But we'd really like it to be a November baby, but you never know. Babies kind of do their own thing. So in this vlog series I'm doing, I'm basically gonna share my pregnancy experiences, and each trimester I'm gonna talk about the symptoms that I had, how I felt, what I struggled with, what I found useful, in the hope that it will help other first-time mums kind of relate and feel not so alone. So, how I found out I was pregnant. As I said, we moved back into this flat in March, and I woke up the first morning that we'd spent in this apartment since going travelling, because we let it out whilst we were away. We had a tenant in place. So I woke up the first morning and I woke up really early, like 5 o'clock in the morning, kind of early, which for me is super early. I love my sleep. And I just couldn't get back to sleep, and there was this like niggle in the back of my mind that was just telling me to take a pregnancy test. So I got out of bed at just before 6 o'clock and in the morning, and I took one pregnancy test, and there were 2 very faint lines on the strip. So I was just standing in the bathroom staring at the pregnancy test like, oh my god, there's two lines. Okay, what do I do now? So I took another pregnancy test, which was a different brand, and it was supposed to have been taken like 5 days before your period was due, but mine was like even more days away than that. I took it quite early. So I took this other pregnancy test and I got 2 more faint lines, and I was just stood in the bathroom staring at these pregnancy tests like, what do I do? What do I do now? So by this point it was about, I don't know, maybe just coming up to 6:30 in the morning. Sam was fast asleep, and we'd had a busy day obviously the day before moving everything back into this apartment, and I'd had all of these grand plans of doing this cute little like scavenger hunt for Sam, and leaving him clues around the flat, and then eventually he'd find these positive pregnancy tests. But that's not what happened, because I got too excited and just overwhelmed. So I burst into the bedroom at about 6:30. I was like, Sam, they're positive. There's 2 lines. And he had no idea what I was talking about. He had no idea I'd even got out of bed to take these pregnancy tests. So he just got woken up by me shouting at a stupid time in the morning, waving these peed on sticks in his face, like, oh, look, there's 2 lines in them. But because they were really faint, he was really skeptical. So he just kind of looked at them like, well, they're a bit faint. And I was like, yeah, but there's 2 lines. Like, there wouldn't be 2 lines if it wasn't positive. Like, can you just get excited? But he was just a bit overwhelmed and tired and didn't really give me the reaction I wanted. So I took a pregnancy test a couple of days later, another one, and that was a lot darker, and he believed me that time. I found out I was pregnant on Friday the 13th of March, and I remember saying to Sam, I really hope this isn't an omen for how the rest of the pregnancy is going to go. And the following Friday, we were told about all the lockdown measures, kids stopped going to school, and proper lockdown came into effect the Monday after that. So it was like a week and a few days from finding out that I was pregnant to the UK going into lockdown. which was terrifying, but it meant that it was kind of like a blessing in disguise, because it was so much easier to hide it from people. Like, we weren't going to see anybody. There was no awkward, like, why aren't you drinking conversations that I'd been dreading having. So we essentially managed to hide it from everybody for the entirety of the first trimester, apart from my parents and my best friend, because I started to get really anxious about being pregnant and being pregnant in a pandemic and, you know, possibly losing the baby, I was terrified and I needed to talk to somebody. So I told my parents when I was 5 weeks pregnant. I found out at around 4 weeks, which, like I said, was super early, because I just wanted my mum to be there and just have somebody on my side who could, you know, relate, I suppose. I mean, obviously the last time she gave birth was 28 years ago when I came along. But it was just, for me, it was important to have somebody there who I could turn to and who would help talk me through it and calm me down and just understand kind of the basics of what I was going through. And I told my best friend because I was just really excited and I wanted to tell somebody, but she doesn't live around here, so there was no danger of her kind of slipping up and mentioning it to anybody else. Everybody else we didn't tell until I was 11 weeks pregnant. Because of COVID, no partners are allowed into NHS scans, which sucks. So here in the UK, you get a 12-week scan and a 20-week scan on the NHS, apart from if they need to monitor you more closely. So I was getting anxious that I was going to be told something awful or just not good news at my 12-week scan, and I'd be completely alone. And it was really starting to prey on my mind. Like, I was losing sleep, my heartbeat was just all over the place. And my mum was like, you need to calm down. Everything that you feel, your baby is feeling. It's not going to do you any good to be in this state. And the only way that I could come up with to calm myself down was to book into a private scan, which would allow partners to attend, which is exactly what we did. So Sam and I booked a private scan, an early scan, at what I thought was 10 weeks, but it actually turned out that the baby was growing faster and I was around 11 weeks. So we had the scan and we went in, and it was just us in the waiting room for obviously safety reasons. Sam and I went into the room, laid down, and I just don't know what I was expecting to see. Like, I was obviously hoping there was going to be a baby in there and a healthy baby. But they put like the gel on my tummy, and then the sonographer popped the scanner on me, and all of a sudden there was a big flat screen TV on my right on the wall, and all of a sudden this little baby, like an obvious little baby, just appeared on the screen, and you could see its heart flickering, and you could see its arms moving and its legs moving, and you could see its little nose, and I was just like spellbound, absolutely spellbound, that this thing on the screen was inside of me, was this tiny little miniature baby, but it just looked so much like a baby. Like, that sounds so stupid. But I don't really know what I was expecting. I think I was expecting it to look a lot smaller or a lot less formed than it was. And I just sat there and was like, oh my God, that's a baby. And Sam was like, well, yeah, what were you expecting was going to be in there? And we were just sat staring at this screen for the longest time. Like, we didn't cry, but it was just so emotional to have that moment together for the first time, knowing that, you know, down the line was full of uncertainties. And, you know, I've subsequently had my 20-week scan and Sam couldn't come to that either. So we were really fortunate to be able to go to this private scan together and see that everything was fine, see our little baby together moving for the first time, and just get some extra reassurance that everything was moving along how it should be and that everything was okay. So after that point, we decided to tell Sam's family and the rest of my family and our friends. So it being in lockdown, it was a little bit difficult to kind of organise, but we ended up going to Sam's family and sort of standing in their garden at a distance and telling them. And then we ended up FaceTiming the rest of our friends and family, so like grandparents, siblings, close friends, and like nobody, apart from my brother, nobody had any idea what was going on. Like, it was such a shock. We'd FaceTime them sitting down and be like, yeah, we've got something to tell you, Kezzy's pregnant. And their faces were amazing. It was just like, what? No way. Because it had just been so easy to hide. Like, nobody had experienced me kind of awkwardly avoiding alcohol, which, if you know me, that is not something I do. So yeah, it was a really nice moment. Even though it wasn't face to face, it was still great. It was still something that we really are happy that we did. The first signs that I had of potentially being pregnant, I was trying really hard not to symptom spot because I didn't want to get my hopes up, and me being me, I was just preparing myself for the worst, for it to not happen first time. We got so lucky that it did. Symptoms that I had that I wasn't expecting, and that wasn't really like a common pregnancy symptom that was on my radar, was having an aversion to toothpaste. So in the couple of days before I took the pregnancy test, I started to get like a weird gagging sensation when I was brushing my teeth, but it wouldn't be because of the taste of the toothpaste. It would be from like the texture of the toothpaste foaming up, which sounds really odd, but it carried on after I'd taken the positive pregnancy test. It carried on for about 2 weeks afterwards, and every time I cleaned my teeth, I'd be like, whoa, which was horrendous and just made life really hard. Another early sign that I put down as a pregnancy symptom was probably maybe a week before I took the pregnancy test. I felt, this is before we'd moved back in here, we were staying with my parents. Before I took the pregnancy test, about a week before, I felt this really bizarre, like, bubbling sensation in my womb. It didn't hurt, but it was kind of like uncomfortable. You could notice that something was there. And I had no idea what it was. I'd never felt anything like that before in my entire life. And I'm quite in tune with my body, and I recognise things when they're normal and when they're not. And it happened one night when I was drifting off to sleep, and then didn't really happen again. But I was getting like the odd little cramping and pulling sensation, which I just put down to, okay, well, your period is due in a couple of weeks' time, like it's probably just that. I also had other things like my heartbeat would race randomly for no reason. I wasn't feeling anxious at the time. I wasn't doing anything that would make my heartbeat any faster. It would usually happen when I was sitting down at my desk doing some work, so nothing major. And I'd also get like hot and cold flushes and get really, really hot, and then it would go away, and then my heartbeat would start going, and then that would go away as well. So yeah, there'd been a few things that had popped up in the week before I took the tests that made me think, maybe something's going on here. But I didn't want to read into it too much because I didn't want to get my hopes up. So I just kind of made a mental note of it and just sat on it until I took the test. I completely underestimated how terrible pregnancy could make you feel, and how much of an impact on your day-to-day life something so small could have from like week 4, week 5. Essentially for me, the first trimester was a wipeout. Like, I spent all of my time on the sofa, under a blanket, feeling terrible, looking terrible, just being a complete wuss, basically. Sam was doing everything for me because I just couldn't get up. Like, getting up made me feel sick. Walking into the kitchen, if I smelt food, it would make me gag. If I saw food, there was one day where I felt really rough and I walked into the kitchen and was going to get some crackers, just something really plain and boring to eat, and I opened the cupboard door and there was a jar of peanut butter at the front of the shelf, and I opened the door and I saw the peanut butter and was like gagging just from literally seeing the peanut butter, which just made no sense. I wasn't sick all that much. I was sick twice, both times in the morning, and for me the nausea was worse, but it would kind of come and go. It would be quite prominent in the morning, and then sometimes it would come back again around lunchtime. But for the first probably 8 to 10 weeks, I survived off of buttered toast, and that was pretty much it, and potatoes, because I just couldn't stomach anything else. I also suffered from headaches that were probably verging into migraines. There were days where I just couldn't look at screens. I didn't want to be anywhere near light. The headaches themselves made me feel sick, which was just gross. I also was really, really tired, like physically exhausted from the moment I woke up in the morning to the moment I went back to bed. Even though I wasn't doing anything, I was literally just spending all my time laying on the sofa. I was exhausted. I'd never felt tiredness like it, but I suppose, you know, growing a baby will do that to you. I also had, you know, the standard things like cramping as your uterus stretches and sore boobs. They really hurt. But yeah, I was quite fortunate, I suppose. I mean, it sounds like I had quite a lot going on, but a lot of people have it a lot worse. So yeah, but I was definitely glad when the first trimester ended. Quite early on in the pregnancy, I was recommended by a friend to look into hypnobirthing, which is something I had heard of, but in my mind, I was like, oh, it sounds a bit hippie and like you're actually hypnotized. But it's not like that at all. It's essentially just breathing exercises and mindfulness and sort of guided meditation to relax you going towards childbirth and into actual childbirth itself, just as a way to help you basically combat your fear. So essentially the more fear you feel, the more tense your body becomes, and then the more pain you feel. And obviously it's only natural to be scared of something that you've never experienced before, but on the flip side, it's something that women have been doing for thousands and thousands of years, and it's something that women do more than once in many situations. So, you know, we're naturally made to give birth, I suppose. So yeah, hypnobirthing kind of explores that side of things and just kind of scientifically, logically explains it to you about how your body's set up for birth and what you need to be doing to prepare yourself for birth without going into the situation terrified and scared and tense before anything started. So yeah, I really enjoyed reading and learning about that. I'm hoping that it will benefit me. We're going to be starting virtual classes in a few weeks, actually, Sam and I. So I'll let you know how those get on when I do my second trimester pregnancy update. So currently I am 20 weeks pregnant. I will be 21 weeks in a couple of days' time. I have had all of my NHS scans now, and I've had 2 midwife appointments, but because of COVID, they haven't been face-to-face. They've been over the phone. So I haven't actually seen my midwife face-to-face yet, and I don't think I will until 28 weeks, which is the start of the 3rd trimester. It's not ideal, but what can you do about it? Everyone else is in the same situation as me, I suppose. So yeah, we just have to kind of suck it up and get on with it. Anyway, that's it from me for my first trimester pregnancy diary. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you can relate. I'm interested to hear from any other pregnant mamas out there who are experiencing pregnancy through COVID. You know, it'd be nice to connect to somebody and have a chat. So leave a comment below, make sure you subscribe. If you want, you can pop over to our Instagram page. We do a lot of photos and stories on there as well. I'll link to it below. And I'll also link to the Hypnobirthing book that I read, which is a great place to start if you are interested in that for your own pregnancy journey. But yeah, take care.